Hey everybody, welcome back to the CPR Garage channel. On this episode, we are firing up the big block in my 78 F-150. Ooh.
No, not good. Not good at all.
And I don't know what kind of exhaust, if any, there's going to be on it because I am out of time to get this video done. I got to leave tomorrow to go on vacation, so we're firing it up. I mean, this is what we got for exhaust right now, which is nothing, but I just got done blasting and painting the L&L swap headers, so we should be able to at least get those on there. I'm going to let them cool just a little bit because I cooked them under my infrared heater, and we'll see what develops. In last episode, we prepped the frame in the engine bay, painted it, put the clutch and flywheel and bell housing on, and dropped the motor in for the last time. First, we're going to jump into an update on the cab repairs on the bashed in rusty cab corner, which is back off again, as you'll see, because I've had it on and off. The major hang up was the door not fitting good, and I now have, like, this is door number 3 or 4, but I actually measured it before I bought it, and from here to the body line is like an 1/8 or 1/4 inch higher than that frickin' green door that doesn't fit. And that one's in good shape, doesn't have any rust or anything like that. So now we're happy with that. The other hang up was the kick panel in here. I need to finish tack welding that in there and grind it, but I couldn't really get in there. So finally I have one of these little dudes so that I can do that. So I got to finish that up, then everything can go in. I'll show you how all that stuff fits when I put it in for the final time. I've had it in and out with self-tapper screws a bunch of times. Okay, we're working on our donor piece here from the junkyard, since we need more than what aftermarket panels provide. We've got this pretty much straightened out finally. I just need to check it a little bit before we add structure back in there, and it's going to stay put. Drilling spot welds. Oh, guys, I tell you what, find you a lady that holds on to you like the last little tiny bit of spot weld holds 2 pieces of sheet metal together. If you can find that, you're doing pretty good. Okay, I'm not out here for a long time today because it is cold as balls outside. It's like 15 below zero outside. So we have a partially insulated shop and a heater, which gets us to about 40 in here. So I'm test fitting all this and figuring out where to cut. So I have my junkyard donor cab corner put on there and mocked up with the inner and outer rocker and the little corner piece. That's not all fitting great so far, but I need to make sure that this is in the right place so that I can finish cutting the cab here. So it's screwed in with some self tappers and lined up. It's like over the seam here. So I scribed a line with a pick, and I'm gonna zip this off, cut it just below that line, and then we'll kind of sneak up to the line with the grinder and fit it real nice. Okay, this is it, and then I'm going in. Got that loosely fitted pretty good, and what I did is we're gonna find where to join here. So I've got the 2 panels screwed together, and what I'm gonna do is make a mark on this patch panel and cut through both of them at the same time, so that in theory, even if you went like cut like this, they'll be the same. They'll be identical with a gap the width of a cutoff wheel in between. just kind of sitting on there. I don't have all the pins in, but you can see I've got it fairly well fitted up. These will have to be pulled and manipulated and butted so that they butt up nice. I left this little guy for now, just for an attachment alignment point. And then we've got a seam to butt weld here. It needs pushed in a little bit, and then I need to figure out what I'm doing here. This was a little crinkled, so straighten that up a little bit, and then we can seam weld this whole thing, check the fit on the door, and then prep that and spot weld all those. And then we still have to do just a little bit of patchwork on the bottom because it was rotted on the donor. That's junkyard parts, but we have the technology and we have this entire cap corner patch. So we will just use the very bottom section down there to repair that. We'll probably cut it off roughly about where I have that line. So, hey, but I'm half frozen and going in the house for dinner. We'll pick this up tomorrow when it's not, you know, double digits below zero. I'm reasonably happy with the fit of the door and the rocker. So let's get we're going to zip the door back off, and then I'm going to get my braces back in here. Going to brace this up so that this guy and that guy don't move, because they are where I want them to be. And yeah, get these guys in weld through primer, drill a bunch of holes in them for spot welds, and start gluing them in there. So the fit on this guy is really not great all around, but this, I just went and measured. We have so much more of the indented area revealed here because it's longer. I just went and measured it to a stock one, and it's like a 1/2 inch longer, so is what she is, I guess. Woo! All right. If you watch Vice Grip Garage, you know the deal. I got the perfect battery for this truck, right? It's cheap and it has a go handle. So this 460 with just a little under 10-to-1 compression, this truck was never designed to have that. So the starting and charging systems were never designed for it either. Here is stock battery cables. That one's actually that's a beefy unit, 1 gauge. Wow. I guess I already had a good ground on there. We'll put that in the keep pile. But okay, now here is just regular parts store crimped thin junk. This is the one that was going from the starter solenoid down to the starter, and yeah, I had heat shielding on there. I mean, I guess it lasted 20 plus years, so that's something, but we can do a little better. So what we have is some good quality 2 gauge battery cable and some solder-on connectors. So we need to make 2 positives and 2 negatives. So we'll show you how to do that right after I measure up for the positive. So you want to run the heaviest gauge you can, and you also want to keep the cables as short as you can, because resistance. So the thinner and longer a cable is, the more amperage that it loses over distance. And I learned this lesson after farting around with my 77 F-150, the one that's like the channel banner and everything for the YouTube channel, the orange long bed 2-wheel drive. I had issues with, when I put EFI on it, the voltage would drop too much and it wouldn't start. It would crank, but it wouldn't start. So in chasing that down, I swapped in a late model gear reduction starter, AGM battery like an Optima or whatever. And the thing that finally did it was upgrading the cables. Nothing like it, all that other stuff got me close, but the final straw was upgrading the cables, and then it cranked faster, and it seems like there was less voltage drop while cranking. And anyway, that was the magic. So I'm trying to run a stock type horseshoe starter in this because I have one and it's about brand new, and they're pretty much, I mean, things that'll be left over after the apocalypse: Twinkies, cockroaches, Ford 306, and Ford horseshoe starters. So also, I mean, you can fix it by taking it apart and cleaning stuff and putting it back together usually. So, and they're massive, so I mean, impact weapon if you really need it. Alright, so we're going to show you how to make the cables, starting off with the positive battery cable to the solenoid. This is going to be the quickest and easiest way, so we're just going to use the old slice and dice. Boom! Shakalaka, as they say. Man, I need to clean up this workbench. This is shameful. Okay. Now, what we're gonna do is trim both ends to fit our terminals respectively and solder them in there. I'm gonna show you how to do that. I actually, at my first job as a mechanic, worked at a 4x4 shop, and we built winch power cables and power cables for snowplows, which are essentially the same thing. And so that's where I learned how to do this, and I'm going to show you a couple little tips and tricks. You can crimp these. I really prefer solder. I know that that's like a controversy or whatever, or I should say people differ in their opinion on that, but we built these for like plow trucks and stuff, and I never saw a solder joint come apart. Maybe on little smaller wires solder isn't the best, because it does make the wire, where the solder is, the wire is basically solid and it can't flex anymore. Now on this, the only place the solder is going to be is inside of here where these wires are. So for doing stuff like this, I like it, and it's really not that hard. Anybody can do it. All you need is a little MAP gas torch and some solder. So here we go. So this is basically how I was taught by the old guys to do this. So first I'm going to take my terminal that I want to connect. We're going to mark how much insulation I need to take off, and we're going to go a little bit further so that we have a little bit of bare wire sticking out, and then we will wrap that with some heat shrink. So you can just use a razor blade, because most of your crimpers won't go this big. So we'll roll a razor blade around in there, kind of bend it back and forth to make sure you broke all of it, and she should just pull right off. there's your wire. We're gonna twist it up, fit it in there. That was a little bit too much insulation off, but it's pretty good. She'll be good enough for sure. Okay. Here are my solder on battery terminals. Now in this kind of battery, normally the positive is bigger than the negative, and that's just a back in the day safety feature to keep you from hooking up reverse polarity, to keep you from hooking up the battery the wrong way. So this guy is not a... Dang it! Idiot! Okay. Might have to go handheld mode on this guy to get you in there, but I'm going to basically clock this in here how I want it. So positive goes on, and then what we're gonna do is you can bend it any way you want, but I just don't like to have them under tension. This is kind of how this one has been wrapped for however many years it was in the parts store or whatever, so we're gonna go with it. So I'll just mark the top here for that. Okay, so that's gonna be in there. And then this guy kind of wants to be like this. Okay. So we'll mark this, boom, boom, boom. Alrighty. That could even be a little bit shorter, but we'll rock it. That way we can hopefully make it lay down on the fender nice. Okay, here's the easy way. Well, the second easiest way, because the easiest way is those battery terminals that already come with solder and flux in them. So you're going to take your terminal and just clamp it straight up and down. Don't have to be real tight, just needs to hold it. Then we're going to take our battery cable and line up our mark. So that's how we want to put it in. Should probably have that going the other way, that's fine. Now, you guys can't see this, but just trust me because I just showed you, okay? So anyway, the easiest way to do this is to have this guy ready, and then we're going to take our torch. And I'm going to pull off or unroll. Probably be better if you could hear me, huh? I'm going to unroll as much solder as I think I'll need, probably to about there, but I want to keep my hand away from the heat, obviously. Let's get that guy out of there. That's an explosion. Okay, so I'm going to heat up the fitting. A little preheat. Then what I'm going to do, a little more. Okay, now I'm going to heat up this guy a little bit, preheat. And it's okay if that stuff in there cools. We'll heat her up again. Okay, my mark is there. So let's make this liquid again. We're just going to push that in there. We'll put a little more in there for the ladies. So if you do it right, it should be nice and full of solder in there. I'm happy with that. And now we let it cool, and I should basically be able to pick up the bench with that thing without it coming apart. So then you just put a little piece of heat shrink over it there, and then we're gonna do the battery end. Okay, I got paint fumes going here for a video on the snowflake, so if I blow myself up, it was good knowing you. So I gave this a good pull after it's cool, and I mean, it actually started sliding the insulation down the wire instead of pulling out of there, so she's good to go. I threw a piece of heat shrink on there, and you want to use, and blue is the perfect color for this project because it's what I have. She's a heating and shrinking. You can just use like a lighter for that. Nice. Might give it just a little wrap of electrical tape to hide that blue, but there you go. First joint done. Here's another thing that's a pet peeve of mine: the crappy battery cables you get from the parts store, the pre-made ones. The ring terminals are always way too big and they're sloppy on there. And I don't like them sloppy, even though I'm a 90s kid. Where's my razor blade? I'm hungry. Okay, there you go. There's the battery terminal, you know, as they say. So, we're not going to cut as much off on this one. We'll be a little conservative, and I'll show you why here in a second. Okay. Just get a good bite and then twirl her on around, and then go crooked so that you have to end up cutting more off. That's a pro tip. Now, you don't have to pay any extra for that. If you're not subscribed, think about subscribing, because, you know, I don't know if people think like we're gonna call you about your car's extended warranty, or you know, we're gonna make you take a survey, steal your personal information. It's nothing like that. It's just your subscriber count on YouTube is basically your net worth as a YouTuber. And so right now, my net worth, not a whole lot. Definitely poverty levels of net worth. So, but we're gonna keep going, and I'm gonna keep on doing my thing, doing what I do, and hopefully, you know, good things will happen. You can also support the channel with some hot, fresh merch. I design all of these. CPRgarage.com. Okay, now we're totally gonna cheat on this one. I get these at Napa. I couldn't find them anywhere else, just around town. Looks like the brand is Quick Connected, possibly. Made in the USA. How about that? These whole battery cables are going to be made in the USA. And they come with these solder pellets, which you just drop in there. And then what I can do is clamp it in here, line up my wires, and I can just hold it there and then put the heat to it until this sinks down into there, and should be good to go. Then I just gotta let it cool and slide the heat shrink over. This is really the simplest way to do it. I'm gonna get you, I'm not gonna super zoom you, but we're gonna get you a little zoomed in there. And this is a great mod on any old vehicle, especially if you're gonna upgrade to fuel injection, or you've got a motor with quite a bit more compression. The 400 that came in this truck probably had 7.5 to 1 compression, and this 460, so not only is it heavier rotating mass because it's a 460, it's also about 9.8 to 1 compression. So Needs every chance it can get. We may end up upgrading the starter at a later time, but we're gonna see how this do. Okay. Oh, not yet. I got excited, I'm sorry. Okay, so that is where we want that. See how that sink in there? Double check our mark, we're good. Now, I just kind of, I know I'm wiggling the shit out of it because it's what I'm trying to do stuff. But there you go. There's a nice clean solder joint. We'll let that cool and we'll give it the little tug test. Then we'll have us a battery cable. Did you just jump? Did you just jump that off me? Ow! That's the burning. Oh. That boy's a tight fit on there. Now that we got our new battery cables on there that we made, let's make sure this thing cranks with the key even, and we'll check that out. Okay. Go handle battery in there. Super Start Extreme. Here are my new battery cables. So there's the big boy that goes to the solenoid, and there is the one that goes from the solenoid to the starter right there. Don't worry, I am gonna secure that with a clamp and put some kind of sheathing on it. Also, some people freak out if you call that a solenoid. It does use electricity to move a part, so it is a solenoid or a relay, whatever you want to call it. Anywho, anyway, here's my grounds going on, the one on the block right there. And yes, it pains me to scrape off and sand my brand new engine paint, but you need good grounds. So that one is going from the block to the frame there, and the battery cable, negative cable, is going to come from the battery and also go on there. So I'll show you that when I'm done. There was a small hole there in the frame. It was like a little bit smaller than 5/16. I just drilled it out to 3/8 and I'm using a coarse thread bolt. I do it this way because I think on this truck originally, the ground only went to the block and not to the frame also. The way I'm doing this right here is the way that Ford did it on the later, like, that's what Ford did on the OBS style trucks that had the tow package. The ground went to the frame and they had a fancy double-headed connector, so there was only one loop and a wire came in and out each side of it, a ground, and then went to the block. So it was grounded to the frame right there and to the block. So that's how I'm doing it, because I think it's a good way to do it. If you don't have your engine well grounded, you can run into problems with the engine will find a ground, like when you're cranking it with the starter. So anything that will conduct from the engine to the chassis, like throttle linkage, a smaller ground wire, and it'll just smoke it. So make sure you got good grounds. Remember, it's always the grounds. All right, I'm gonna snug all this down. We're gonna see if she'll crank over with the key. Let's take a moment to talk about Earl. Now, Earl is redneck speak for oil, okay? So, wow, that's a tight fit. This engine has already been run on the dyno, so it's, for all intents and purposes, it's broke in, right? It's still a flat tappet engine. So this is what we ran on the dyno. Has all the zinc in it and all the stuff you need for a flat tappet cam, and it's straight 30 weight, which means it's not 10W30, it's just the 30. It does not get thinner. So this is hot weather oil only. But I ordered like 3-4 jugs of this. I can't remember. I think 4, because I still got a, anyway, these 5-quart jugs. So I'm going to use it. We're going to use it to do a couple quick oil changes, and then when fall gets here, we'll swap it out for some 1030 or some 1040. So if you're going to run these older engines with flat tappets, make sure you have the right oil. You can do all kinds of research. There's a bunch of different ones to try. I usually run Valvoline VR1. That's what I run in the Harleys also. Whole bunch of different stuff you can run. Just make sure you run the right stuff. You can probably run regular cheapy oil with an additive also. Some people advise against that. That's what I was gonna do, was run Rotella with an additive, but the dyno guy was kind of hinky about that, so we'll run this Lucas break-in oil and let her eat. I'm just waiting for a bolt to dry, and then we can hook the battery cables up and check them and try to fire this thing with the key. Okay, so there is grounds all hooked up. Positive side all hooked up. Okay. Put this guy on here. We're gonna watch for smoke or fire or anything bad. Are you watching or are you digging in your fingernails? Okay. Ready? Okay. We got nothing so far. Look at these battery cables, Bryce. Me and Roni made these yesterday, huh, Roni?
Here?
Yeah, that's fine. They're handcrafted right here in Laurel, Montana. Okay, I think we're good. We're just gonna crank it. It's not gonna start because it doesn't have any fuel and the spark isn't hooked up. But I want to crank it a little bit and then we'll put the oil pressure gauge in there and crank it a little bit more. Because if I crank it too much, it's gonna pop the fitting off of the oil pressure thing back there and shoot stuff everywhere. Or should we just ram that through real quick and do that? What do you guys think? All right, we'll give it a test first. Okay, you clear? Don't have anything in here.
I feel like something bad's about to happen.
It's just a little tubing cutter. You can get them at the parts store or pretty much any hardware store. Plumbers use them for copper pipe and stuff too, so there you go. Back of our Earl gauge. Just got that. It takes this little nut and this little ferrule. Ferrule. Nope. Hit that last time. So the nut goes on, and then the ferrule. Kinda would like to straighten that guy up a little bit, but I'm not gonna. Okay, then you slip this in there. Make sure that the tubing bottoms out. See how much that just went when I straightened it out? Otherwise, you're going to tighten down your ferrule and then you're going to pull the hose right out of there. You'll pull that copper tubing right out of there because it has to crush that little guy. Crush it. Just like you're crushing somebody's dreams. Ugh. Crush it just like ex-wives crush dreams. So then we're going to tighten this guy good and tight, right, you know, about till the plastic is about to break. Then we're going to loosen it a little bit because we didn't clock our gauge correctly. Thread our little plasticky type of wheel guy back on there. Okay, and I'm going to get in there and tighten the nut and then we'll see if we got some oil pressure. Okay, I got you as up close and personal as I can. So let's crank her some more and see if we got oil pressure. Nothing yet. Okay, I got my shop fan just a-ripping on that starter. Because we're going to be asking a lot of it. You're only supposed to crank for like 30 seconds at a time, then give it a break. Seems like it cranks over good. That's with the plugs. The spark plugs are in it, so that's all the compression it's going to have. There we go. All right. Now let's check for leaks. But we got oil pressure, so I'll nip that up. And then we'll get ready to fire this thing up. That might end up being tomorrow because what we really need is exhaust. Because we got nothing on there. Till tomorrow, stay frosty, my friends. Hey, L&L, maybe you should use this instead. There's the headers. We're going to install some room temperature vulcanization cream that I just picked up instead of gaskets. And we're gonna fire this thing up with just running off a bottle and some sort of exhaust, whether it's just pipes coming off collectors or what, but we're gonna do it. I already got one neighbor that doesn't like me, so I mean, we already have it cranking over as I showed you with our battery cables. All right, I'm out here to put my freshly painted headers on. I got these crappy gloves from Harbor Freight because I was in a hurry and I didn't look at what I was buying. But the headers are dry, but I don't want to get fingerprints on there that burn on there. So I only got 30 minutes to do this because I have shotgun shells on the smoker, and if you're nice, I'll show you what those are and kind of tell you how I made them. You know, I saw them on some barbecue show, and then I found a recipe on the internet. So, what do you guys got on the smoker? Anyway, let's get these plug wires out of the way and throw on some headers. I'll show you how I do the silicone instead of a gasket. Okay, do you even see this work that I'm putting in right now to get you this shot? You're gonna be on the tripod up here. So if you appreciate it and appreciate these videos, please consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell so you get notified every time we put a new one out. You can also go to cprgarage.com and get you some of the freshest Back the Blue type of merch. Got your 6 t-shirt. This is how we do the silicone. I'm gonna take my tube. I got my crappy Harbor Freight gloves on. Here's a tech tip. If the doctor that's going to examine your, is wearing these, that's a no-go. You're gonna wake up in a hotel bathtub full of ice missing a kidney. It just ain't worth it. So what I'm gonna do is paint a little bead around each port, and this is only maybe 1/8 of an inch thick. And then we're gonna do the same thing to the head. And we let it just barely skin a little bit, which is what happens when the silicone just barely starts to get the very top layer set up. Then we're going to put it on there, and we're just going to snug the bolts up, and we're going to leave it for a little while. And then we're going to come back and tighten them down the rest of the way, because the silicone will kind of have a rubbery springiness to it, so we want to snug it down so that it conforms on there, so it's conformed to both mating surfaces but not really clamped down. Let it set for a little bit, and then we're going to tighten the bolts and put some clamp load on it. That's how I do it. Knock on wood, it has never leaked, unlike header gaskets. I despise leaky header gaskets. So get headers with thick flanges. Are you okay? Are you still there? Get headers with thick flanges and use copper. I should mention, this is a special silicone for exhaust. It's ultra copper. Tiny bead on here as well. If it's a little sloppy, well, I'm sure we'll smear it around with the header without trying to when I put that on there, but you can always just take a razor blade and trim some of it off afterwards. The L&L stuff does come with nice ARP bolts. These are a 12 point, which ain't when you pay that much. It's a steel bolt going into an aluminum head, so a little coat of anti-seize will help it come out in the future. We're putting that on since this is the final time we're installing these. Did I fit these before? I'm sure I probably did. Okay, get out of there. No, stop being bad. So much nicer to install than long tubes. Okay, so stupid steering shaft. Okay, I'm gonna get my front bolt. I don't want it to touch until the bolts are lining it up, if possible. Because once these two go together, it's going to basically make its own gasket. These are nice headers. My few gripes are that the coating sucks. As you see, it promptly burned off on the dyno. The primary tubes are really too small. Well, there you go, the header's in there. Anti-seize your bolts. And if you were good and watched the whole video, leave me a comment with the name of the smoker. We're gonna check. Oh boy, 465, that might not be good. Oh no, it's good things. So there you go, those are shotgun shells. They are manicotti shells stuffed with ground chuck, cream cheese, cheddar cheese, jalapeno, seasoning. You wrap the shell in bacon after you stuff it and smoke it. Okay. Oh, I'm a mess. I'm a wreck. The shop's a wreck. But damn it, this thing's gonna start tonight. Got my exhaust just self-tapered on there. And this ain't even the exhaust it's gonna have. This is some junk that I just cobbled together with the reducers on there and some bends. At least we won't have straight pipes. Hello, gorgeous. I'm gonna go eat that barbecue, and after supper, we're firing it up. Consequences be damned. Okay, I'll admit it's the next day. Didn't make it last night. We decided it was too late to be firing up the truck with minimal exhaust on it, and by we, I mean my wife. So I just got to put some oil in the transmission, and we are ready to go. Whew, here we go. Quadruple check that it's in neutral before you do this, because not only do these old trucks not have a clutch safety switch, but I'm going to crank it over from the solenoid with my test light, so no safety involved. Wiring up this Pertronix is pretty simple. You just run both of your wires from the distributor to your Pertronix coil, positive and negative. The negative grounds the coil. I'm assuming it just grounds through the distributor housing in the block. And then you run key and cranking power to your coil, and that's also the distributor power. Ooh, I wonder if I gotta initialize that guy. We'll see. If it doesn't start, that's probably why. So I just got a hot wire here to jump it, and I'm gonna stick this onto the positive terminal so I can yank it back off if stuff gets dangerous. Anyway, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna set you guys up down here just in case any flames or fireballs or, you know, parts shoot out of the exhaust. You guys let me know, okay? I'm also gonna try to put you in a spot where hopefully it won't blow out the microphone. Danger incoming. Something just went flying off of there. That's fine. I can hopefully run everything. hole ain't filling. Let's try holding the choke open. Probably gonna get burned, but. Thank you all so much for watching. On the next episode, we're getting this thing running and driving. We're going to finish plumbing up exhaust, fuel, cooling, all that stuff, front accessories. And we're driving this thing. We might sneak a motorcycle episode in between. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. But again, thank you everybody. Please consider subscribing. We love you guys. You're the best.